Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the 4 CGIAR centers based in the Americas at this side event of the World Food Prize. Buenos días a todas y todos. Muchas gracias por sumarse a los 4 centros del CGIAR con presencia en las Américas. La conversación el día de hoy se realizará en inglés y para aquellas personas que requieran traducción simultánea, por favor den clic en el icono del globo terráqueo en el menú inferior de su pantalla y seleccionen el idioma del audio en español. If you have questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom menu and not the chat. If we don't have time to answer your questions live today, we will be sharing them with our panelists and sending the responses back to you by email. We are recording this event and the video will be available at the site of the dialogue. I am sharing the link in the chat in a few moments. And please remember to join the conversation on social media using the hashtag CGLAC. Now, to start this dialogue, please welcome Natasha Santos. She is Vice President of Global Stakeholders Strategy and Affairs at Bayer Crop Science. She will be leading this conversation today. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Horacio. Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning or good afternoon, depending from where you're connecting to be with us today. My name is Natasha Santos, and I am pleased that you're joining me and our top-level speakers at this timely and important conversation about my homeland, Latin America. It is very important to highlight that Latin America is one of the world's leading food producing and exporting region. It has enormous natural wealth, significant amount of the world's biodiversity, a flourishing agriculture industry, and a family farming sector that is fundamental for the food security of its own population. But very important, we are really in a critical moment. As the World Bank Vice President has said recently in an interview to the Financial Times, 2 decades of work in reducing poverty risk being lost in Latin America this year. As more than 15 million people plunge back into hardship in a context of high levels of informal labor, fragmented health services, and worsening inequality. The most vulnerable people are once again being hit the hardest. The IMF predicted that the region economy will contract by 9.4% this year, worse than Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Although the scenario is challenging, stagnation and business as usual are not options. The socio-economic crisis that we are facing makes new development model more urgent than ever. In the farming sector, new technologies and innovative system that improves efficiency of agricultural production, producing more with less, for example, and improve farmers' livelihoods are one of the most powerful approaches for simultaneously meeting the world's nutrition needs and protecting the environment and biodiversity. And the CGIAR system has its roots in Latin America, continues to be a relevant knowledge center in the region, and has evolved its vision to adapt to today's food system sustainability challenges, aiming to create broader reach and greater impact. And then with that spirit, today we will hear from the 4 CG centers based in the Americas and learn about recent and ongoing innovations to the way they operate and how partnering together through public-private collaboration is leading to greater impact to address regional and global challenges. They will share ideas and examples of innovation in the areas of capital finance mechanism, digital transformation, climate adaptation, and how we can build alliances to scale up initiatives to accelerate a new thinking on how we feed and nurture the planet and do so inclusively. Our panelists today are Jesus Quintana, Managing Director for the Americas from the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT, Bram Hovarts, Interim Deputy Director, Director of the Integrated Development Program, and representative for the Americas at the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center, Ginia Nakata, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean for the International Potato Center, and Ruben Echeverria, Senior Research Fellow of the International Food Policy and Research Institute. We'll then open for questions and answers from the audience and have insightful closing remarks from Marco Ferroni, the chair of the CGIAR System Board of Management. Let me now give the floor to those inspiring speakers and kick off this timely and important discussion. And really, for all of you joining us today, we really look forward to your participation in the next hour. I'll be checking my phone to see your questions coming, and I hope we're gonna have a very, very great time with all our speakers. And now I'll pass the floor to Jesus. Please, Jesus, the floor is yours.
Hey, hello, good morning. Thank you, Natasha, and for your inspiring words. And a big hello to all the audience. Un saludo a la audiencia de que la mañana, en la noche, in the morning, in the afternoon, decide to join us. Yes, Natasha, you are right. No? That we still have many challenges: poverty, hunger, nutrition, biodiversity deterioration, natural resources being overuse, climate change. And this is in the very heart of the creation of the CGIAR 70 years ago, with a different scale. Unfortunately, at that time, but still was about nutrition, was about being more productive, was about providing solutions based on science. And it's interesting that it was philanthropic resources that were used to do that, to create all these research centers that decided just to do more and do better, and to demonstrate that we can have another model based on research, based on science. Now, still, the challenge, not only some of them are the same, despite all the solutions and the effort we made, but some of them have been increasing since then. Not only because of the pandemic, but the pandemic has been worsening the things, as you all know, but still poverty, inequality, natural resources overuse, and climate change altogether are having a great impact on the region, in the world. What we do together as a CGIAR centers is to look for solutions and look for ideas and join forces with others so that we can bridge all those problems, jump over the problems, and be more capable of having bigger impacts. Rapidly, as you may know, some of you, the CIAT and Biodiversity International, two centers belong to the CGIAR. We decided last year to join forces to be more productive, to have greater impact, to be in more places and to reach more people. What we're discussing today is, as you said, Natasha, at the beginning, new ideas that we can put as a model, the kind of things that we do, that we can do together as centers, joining forces with private sector, with companies, and with governments. In our case, what we are proposing here is something which is very much close to our mandate, which is having conservation of biodiversity, natural resources, together with the promotion of sustainable food system. In this case, the idea is to do it in the Amazon. We are doing with private sector engagement through a platform which is called the PPA, the Partnership Platform for the Amazon, in which our innovative idea is to invite and entice, in the one hand, philanthropic resources, money from the private sector, leveraging resources, and on the other hand, all these companies, all these people that are having great, brilliant ideas that can work for biodiversity conservation, while at the same time promoting a way of using the Amazon, but using it in a proper way. We do it in incubating and accelerating those startups for sustainable development through a range of mechanisms, business rounds, inviting awards, competition, etc. So they can bring their ideas to us, and at the same time, we're promoting local entrepreneurs and social businesses. We do this unique approach is promoted by USAID and other partners. So this platform, PPA, which is a mechanism to use development finance for having impact investment. This is the model. We are leveraging finance through reputable companies with this global goal. The idea is to have all these resources coming, putting them together. So to conclude rapidly and to adjust to the time, just to allow my colleagues to speak, those are the the 5 points I would like to emphasize. Now, the challenges, some of them are the same, but now the scale is even bigger. The sheer dimension of the challenges require not the same ideas, we need new ideas. Natasha and colleagues, we not only need new ideas that we can bring to the table, we also need more resources, new resources. That's why we are inviting private money just to come so that we can work together. We need to do this producing results. It's very important to demonstrate performance and to demonstrate this result in a proper way. We need to do this with compliance. We need to do this with a sound management. We are asking for private money to come. We need to demonstrate that we can manage it properly and show it. And finally, and most important, we need to do this, Natasha and colleagues, in a collaborative manner. That's the whole idea of this innovative capital finance mechanism. To invite others to do this together, to put private sector, to put governments, to put NGOs, social entrepreneurs, with a science-based institution like the CGIAR, like the 4 CG centers sitting together, open to new ideas that we can promote as trustworthy partners, and then just to conclude, joining forces, Natasha, with all those colleagues and partners that want to come with us, including the CG centers. I stop here.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you very much. New ideas and new resources. This is a great points for us to have some conversations after the presentation. I think now, please, I invite Bram Hovers to the floor.
Thank you, Natasha. And first of all, let me repeat what an honor it is to be together on this panel with such esteemed speakers, but especially getting here today already was a team effort that was inspired by the passion to make a difference. So I think that's what we should do moving also forward. And speaking at World Food Prize is always a bit like reporting back to the public of what we have done. And in previous sessions, we have been discussing about setting up systems interventions that include multiple actors from the social, private, and public sector. So in that sense, I want to recognize that I'm not speaking in name of myself, I'm speaking in name of a team of people. I'm not speaking in name of CIMMYT, I'm speaking in name of 150 collaborators that day in, day out make it possible to have this integrated effort and this innovation network locally operating. And it is under that network that in this example, we put a data piece, because we had the dream that actors along the value chain can act and move from data to information, from information to decision-making, and from decision-making to decision-taking. And this innovative solution, which was brought together collaboratively between CIMMYT, the Alliance Biodiversity and CIAT, but also IIASA, and for sure, more important, thanks to 150,000 farmers who were crowdsourced and were putting their data and are still putting their data on this data system. And the output of the data system informs data and decision-making by farmers, but also by consumers, as we could connect this and create traceability with local buyers, local tortilla shops in Mexico, but also big companies like Kellogg's, Bimbo, Nestle, who now, they can now inform the consumers, and consumers can then take decisions. And we can now move from a push, where we're saying a technology push or an idea push, where we are happy to say this should be done different, to a pull, where the voice of the consumer and the vision of the consumers is actually pulling and creating value. So the same grain that is produced with a lot of use of water, with a lot of trace gas emissions, is no longer having the same value as a grain where a farmer is taking its responsibility and it's producing it with low impact, with low footprint, and especially with inputs that are environmentally friendly, and integrating nature conservation and generating grains with higher nutritional value. Because in the end, we want a nutritious diet that can actually be responsibly produced. And to close off these remarks, I think we need to remember that 50 years ago, Borlaug received the Nobel Peace Prize. And today, again, the Nobel Peace Prize goes to the World Food Programme. But I think if we replicate anything from the past, it is that we need to listen to the crisis and develop a transformational response. And this will require from all of us to leap forward. and especially lead by example so that we can build resilience and avoid future crises. And we will have to be humble, because it will be required to be learning by doing. And that will be required that we all make mistakes, consumers, public sector, private sector, farmers. But as long as we learn from those mistakes and always have the better good in mind, and we are moving towards the objectives of a more resilient agri-food system, we will find each other in the common space, and we will make a difference. Thanks, Natasha, over to you.
Thank you, Bram. Really passion to move to the future, and passion is something that we have plenty in Latin America. I am really fascinated on the topic of digital, and then having consumers rewarding sustainable farming practices. Those are great topics for to discuss later on. And now to the floor, I invite Genia, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Natasha. Greetings to everyone who's joining us at this early or late hour, depending on where you are. It is my absolute pleasure to be joining you with my esteemed colleagues. You know, I'd just like to reflect back for a moment on what Barbara Stinson said in the opening ceremony of the World Food Prize this year. And she said that really what we're talking about is an evolution of the green revolution. And while the CG centers were perhaps based originally in that time frame, I think that what you see here today is very much that evolution. And we at CIP, what we're creating with our climate co-laboratories is an extraordinary example of what we've learned from one another and how far we've come as we move into our 50th year, which is next year. We'll be celebrating 50 years. So let me just talk a little bit about our climate co-laboratories. CIP's climate co-laboratories form part of our Andean initiative, which covers you know, the full Andean region. Right now it's mainly Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, but we also have some pending work in Colombia, Argentina. So it's really that whole area where we're focusing our efforts with the Andean initiative. The unique qualities of the Andes provide an unparalleled opportunity to investigate challenges that are at the intersection of agrobiodiversity and climate change. With 85 of the planet's 110 life zones in Peru alone, CIP and our partners are well positioned to study numerous factors, such as the effects of increasing frequency and intensity of abiotic stress, particularly hail, frost, and drought, on agriculture and nutrition, as these areas are already experiencing temperature fluctuations that surpass the 2 degrees, which will hit other regions of our planet within 10 years. With this information, we're building what we call territorial innovation networks in the Andes to be on the leading edge of teaching and learning from the farmers how to adapt agricultural production across the planet before these extremes become a global reality. The results will strengthen global socio-ecological resilience and responsiveness to future climate challenges. So through these living laboratories, we can actually help prepare the whole planet for the future. We don't do this alone. We work with food systems, which include maize, beans, and potatoes. Those are the core crops of the LAC-based CG centers. Our territorial innovation networks are built from our combined expertise, including CIMMYT innovation hubs focused on technology diffusion, the Alliance's Climate Smart Villages, which support climate change adaptation, and our own experience with farmer business schools that focus on education, nutrition, and helping producers profit from rich agrobiodiversity. Our co-laboratories are based on existing local networks, which will have standard processes and protocols for learning and data collection. They're very practical, and they're designed for replication regionally and globally through systems innovation methodology for scale. Our initial partners include Bayer, Euroclima, CCAFS, that's the CG system program focused on climate change, Asociación Patas, which is the local NGO in the Sierra Norte of the Andes, But we're just getting started, and we're looking for partners in ag tech, IT, wholesale retail processors, consumer associations. In essence, if you have something you think can contribute to these collaboratories, which are really built on combined strength of so many partners, we would like to hear from you. And I'll leave it there. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is learning from farmers and the collaboratory, the territorial project, and Bayer is part of that. So it's really a very important topic for you to discuss later on as well. And then Ruben, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natasha. It's a pleasure to be here. I really thank you for your fantastic introduction. Coming from you, from Bayer, I think this is exactly what the CG in Latin America should be doing. Listening and partnering with Bayer and many other partners. I must say that I miss Iowa, but I don't want to get too nostalgic. I have 3 minutes, but I miss Iowa. So I hope we can be all together, and the target will be, if this new platform in the region for the 4 centers and many others, of course, from the CG that can join, we should be together next year and see our progress. Measure our progress. So I have one message today, which is scaling up investments. We have fantastic research programs in the CGIAR. We generate lots of knowledge, but sometimes not much innovation. Innovation has the capacity to translate knowledge into impacts by scaling up with partners. So if we want to scale up investments, I think, to transform food systems in the region, we need to tackle the most important institutional bottleneck. This is not a technical bottleneck. Of course, we need more funding for technological research, but the institutional bottleneck that we are facing today for these investments to come is being able to conceptualize not only great ideas that could end up in fantastic journal articles, but to put them into practice, into well-designed and well-implemented investment programs, not research programs, investment programs. So to scale up investments, of course, we need investments. So a potential key contribution to this regional platform, this fantastic idea of having the 4 centers together in the region, we will be to promote, for example, a project incubation facility. Don't worry, don't panic. This is not a consulting shop. This is a project incubation facility that the CGIAR should not only pilot, but move ahead, that would attract not only public and philanthropic. We love public and philanthropic funding, of course, national government funding, but that's not enough. The CGIAR is less than 2% of total funding for R&D. We need corporate, we need private finance. So we need to innovate, not only in the developing and scaling up technologies, but on the innovative financing mechanisms, and expand the partnership to corporate and private. So I have just three points to finish. Why not promoting this incubation facility? Why not promoting with public agencies and philanthropy a common finance window to reduce administrative costs for private finances? They don't come because of risk. Well, let's lower the risk. Second, why not promoting a new donor-funded programs with private investors that could be co-designed and co-invested instead of developing the program and then asking for the money? We can co-design and co-invest. And finally, why not researching into the design of new financial instruments to mobilize private finance? We can create investment matchmaking possibilities to aggregate deals. There are many deals out there, too small. Why don't we aggregate those deals and facilitate investor due diligence and risk assessment? Anyway, some of these ideas, these are not mine, of course, are already starting in the CGIAR. So our aim with this initiative, together, the 4 centers and other partners, is to dialogue with key development banks. The World Bank is just putting in a few days a fantastic new framework, strategy for Latin America. The IDB is rethinking all of these research paradigms in Latin America. CAF, the World Economic Forum, can access a lot of partners in the private sector. Why don't we broaden our dialogue with these public and private partners and develop a solid pipeline to scale up investments. Without that solid pipeline showing where the impacts will be, showing not only the theory of change, but showing a pathway how to get to those impacts, we are not going to attract private finance. And we need it. Next year will be tough on budgets, and research sometimes takes time, and people will say, well, why don't we wait a little more? So a year to really innovate and transform. So to finish, institutional change is as important as technical change. So we are celebrating 50 years of the CGIAR. Many centers are celebrating. The one CGIAR is a fantastic idea, but in addition to celebrate with all the technical change that we have done, we should also, I think, do more on institutional change. And this is the opportunity to scale up investments, to rethink new innovative mechanisms, to innovate in financing, and to innovate in project preparation and implementation. Good ideas need to land on the ground, and they have to have very good quality, high quality projects. So this is one of the key elements that I think we are missing in the region, and a collective CGIAR, as we are showing today here in Iowa, although virtually, can really promote such facility in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruben. Really, really insightful, and particularly on we need partnership to accelerate the transformation. And as I said it on the beginning, we are in a critical moment, and the moment is now. So I'm seeing we have a lot of comments on our chat already, and we want your questions to come in. And then let me start maybe the first question for you from my side, Ruben, because scaling up is a very important topic, and having a multi-stakeholders alliance to address issues is a very important topic as well, cross-sector. So maybe for us to get a bit concrete to our audience and think about some specific topics, we heard 4 big ones today, but what would be, if you could, thinking about multi-stakeholders alliance to address an issue, what would be your suggested focus issue, and how would you find a meaningful and quantifiable solution? You can pick one maybe of our priorities of mentioned today, just to bring some concrete examples to the audience.
Sure, and I'm sure my colleagues in the panel, which are wiser, can help me too with good answers. So I you know, if I pick one, I will say, well, we have a life science revolution around the world together with a digital revolution. If you combine the two together and you go back to the origins of the CGIAR, thinking about genetics and genomics and the transformation, if you put those two together, 50 years forward, that I will pick that one, and I will get private investors and move on. You know, I'm talking about all the new combo of having life science transformation on those genomes, including the conservation of biodiversity, moving forward, fast forward 10 to 20 years. Now this is the time to do it. You know, these technologies are cheaper. All our budgets are really down in the CGIAR. And instead of asking the private sector to be a donor, we should ask to co-finance and be a fantastic partner, including with, you know, I'm not talking about only the multinational, I'm talking about small companies, and anyway, to innovate. So I will pick on that one, go back to the roots and pick on that one. There are many other examples. The example for the Alliance of Biodiversity and Sea on the Amazon is a fantastic one. So you can pick an environmental, but if I had to pick one, I go for that one.
Thank you, Ruben. Anyone wants to, maybe any of our other panelists wants to comment on a multi-stakeholder platform?
Yeah, I think Ruben has summarized it very well. But to add, I think today we have an opportunity we have never had before. That is, we have a lot of access and knowledge about the past, about the present. We are measuring more than ever whatever is around us. But I also think we have more power than ever to project the future, and to be able to use that to bring also together stakeholders. Because I think if we can together shape how the future should look like, then it becomes easier to make a path on where we are today and how to get to where we want to be tomorrow. So some of those discussions, feeded by data, feeded by technological possibilities, but let us not leave behind the need for the social interaction, and that platform then brings together a shared future to which we are willing to go and willing to invest socially, financially, privately, but also publicly.
Natasha, maybe I could just add to what Brahm and Ruben said. I think one of the key things that we bring as a system, you know, the CG system, and particularly in LAC, is when we're talking about partners and multi-stakeholders, you know, we're also talking very much about participatory development of these things directly with the farmers, the women, the men, the youth. Like because of our participatory selection, you know, when we're developing these genomic varieties, when we're actually doing the biofortification of our foods, et cetera, we're doing it directly with the communities. So it takes a little longer, but the adoption rate is 100%. And even when that we choose, let's say there's a number of varieties that we try. Let's say there are 10 of them, and 2 of them are kind of the winning ones. The farmers, they keep all 10 because they participated, and the women have different preferences than the men. And so what we do is we not only have the science that feeds into all of the benefits and the work that we do, but we also have the delivery. And on the delivery, we are taking what we're learning from these producers and also feeding it back up and saying, hey, science, here's some issues that need your attention. And we do that with climate change. We do that with soil health. We do it with regenerative agriculture. We do it with livelihoods, with plants. I mean, we like to talk about in R&D and initiative, plants, planet, and people, because it is really about creating these win-win scenarios. And I think that's what a lot of people don't know, is that in the CG system, our work, we're not just sitting behind in a lab doing research. It's not just, you know, it's not just it's also in situ, directly with the people who will benefit.
Yeah, that's
Natasha,
really. Go ahead, Jesus. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, just to complement, just shortly, because all my colleagues said everything we needed to hear. But I will just put the emphasis when you say about multi-stakeholder solution platform that can be just thinking together. I mean, the most important thing is the same idea of the multi-stakeholder as such. I mean, a collective action. The size of the challenges is so huge that we cannot do it separated. And we need to do it not only putting together different kind of actors, of course. I mean, governments has to be there, including local governments. You need to also to have the private sector, we said, but you need to have it in a way which is socially inclusive. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, you may have solutions that are very high-tech or that are very visionary, but will not reach some of the people. And you said at the beginning, in your inspiring words, poverty has been rising. Hunger is on the rise. We need to think of working together with solutions that can be adopted and adopted by most of the people, not all. So we have to think in this way, that using the resources wisely, all the people. Oh.
Thank you, Jesus. Exactly, the inclusive transformation. And Gina, you mentioned a topic that it's really close to my heart, and I guess to all of us, that is empowering women farmers and accelerate the transformation there. And I had a question directly to you from the audience about the ADN initiative plan, and the question is around how the how we plan to attract young people and adapting food system to the challenges, for example, of malnutrition, and to achieve sustainable food security.
Thank you, Natasha. Yes, this is actually part of our platform is wholly focused on youth engagement. And we're actually, there are a number of innovative ways that we're doing this. And when we talk about youth, we're not just talking about youth that are living in the high Andes where, you know, the rates of malnutrition are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. But we're also talking about youth across the Andean region, the consumers. We're talking about youth as entrepreneurs, as how they can create businesses. And so one very explicit example that I can share with you from COVID, because during crisis, there are also opportunities. And so as the food supply was cut off, particularly of our very rich and nutritious varieties of native potatoes, and we work very directly, there's a group called Aguapan, that is made up of what we call custodians of these native varieties that are high in zinc, iron, various vitamins and minerals. That, how do you reach, how do they sell their goods when region by region, everything's closed off? I mean, within countries, you couldn't pass from community to community. And they created a system using apps, mobile technology. This is where the youth came in, where the youth, it's 12 hours from the places that these people live to Lima, where they're selling these goods. And the youth, they actually delivered to people's homes and the little motorbikes. Like, that did not exist pre-COVID. And these are youth who even, you see all this reverse migration during this crisis. This is creating opportunities that we only can hope will keep some of those people in those rural areas. And they bring with them this knowledge, because ultimately what we're trying to do is create these opportunities for youth to have their own businesses. And even beyond that, when you look at the malnutrition, how do you change how people eat? Well, that comes with the youth. And so it comes with, yes, you've got to support them to get the nutrients they need, but the change of diet happens at that level, and then it becomes ingrained. So we're very much targeting working directly with youth, as we appreciate 100% that they are the future of our work together. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Gina. Jesus, thinking about monitoring, thinking about generating data, a question to you is CIAT generating data about innovation results, for example, the use of incubators? You're mute, you're mute.
Sorry, that's our word up. No, yes, that's the most important thing we are doing with this participation in the PPA. Not just enticing or inviting private sector money, and also motivating and accelerating and incubating startup. We need to monitor that. That's the most important thing. As I said in the introduction, we need to have this sound management in which we can demonstrate results. So we need to track, record everything that is happening, baseline, and the changes that we are promoting through proper systems. And this is the heart of the collaboration we are doing in this PPA with USAID and the rest and with innovative financing. Plus, of course, I mean, all the rest ideas of inviting the private companies. But monitoring through proper use of resources, we are even inviting with working with in a similar and parallel joint venture with NASA, in which in the Amazon we have this NASA project, Servir Amazonia, this is called, in which with the help of NASA and also funded through USAID, we're monitoring change in the Amazon in real time. We are just monitoring the change, the positive change we are helping to bring about. We're also informing and helping the people understand something so abstract and far away as you can see a satellite or the NASA high-tech science, to people and to indigenous people and to tribes and to communities. So see, this is our role. I mean, it's science working for the people, not science, reserved to this elite, working isolated, speaking this very abstract language. It's science that can be translated and be done in a way, as you said before, it's an inclusive transformation. So that's the monitoring and indicators that we are developing that can be used, and also using, of course, traditional knowledge that can be also applied, and do the other way from the people on this hotspots, go to the NASA center and to also to our headquarters. Okay.
Thank you, Jesus. This is really a topic. It's really fascinating having digital transformation supporting sustainable agriculture and inclusive systems and helping with better livelihoods. This is really important, and it's something I want to turn out to you, Bram, and ask you a very specific question, because as I mentioned, very fascinated with the digital farming topic. And then on this topic, how do you think the private sector, like Bayer or other companies of all scales, big or small, could partner with you, particularly to address the smallholders, farmers' needs that you brought in your remarks?
I think, Natasha, and I think there's huge opportunities to partner, and it starts from the fact that we are working now in a system. We need to take a systems view, and that doesn't mean that there's not a technological input in that system, but it needs to play a role in that system change, and that's already where where the companies like Bayer and others can collaborate with us. But also the whole other side: how do we multiple use data? Data is becoming cheaper, but it's also becoming multiple purpose. We should no longer do monitoring and evaluation as a tool to say, did we do a good job during 10 years? Too bad, we did a bad job, let's do better next time. We should use it in real time in the system to look at the pressure points, but the pressure points also become investment opportunities. And then when you have the investment there, you do the return on investment. And we as science centers and scientists need to be very comfortable with saying we measure return on investment. We're ready to go out there and say wheat research has a return on investment for every dollar of $100 of return, but also ready to say, and here we made a mistake and we can fix it now together, and bring in then companies that say, you have better assets, you have things to put into this global system. But on the other hand, we can create the pre-competitive space in which you can comfortably land some of your innovations, learn from others, and then go back at what you're good at, which is then promoting it, having it out there, and using it to create that return on investment. So it's really to make sure that everybody does better what we're already good at. We should avoid asking people to do things they're not good at, but also then leverage data to make better decisions throughout the whole process. And that's where I would like to invite the private sector to step forward. Many of you are already out there in this pre-competitive space. Many are not. Let's create a space, and let's lose the fear of conversation, and let's have a conversation together. And for sure, there are win-win situations to be created.
Say, Natasha, sorry to jump in, but there are so many questions in the chat about the youth. And since I am the oldest in this panel and perhaps in the audience, you know, some of us, as you get old, you get worried about the youth. I wonder sometimes if the youth are worried about us. So my point is that yes, there is a lot of opportunities for the young. And we're not talking about the young that leave the farm. I'm thinking of those that already left long time ago, and they're already in cities, and they are in Switzerland or in Madrid, and they are working on finance. Those are the young also, in addition to, of course, the young in rural areas in Latin America, that we need to attract. They should come back. This is the best opportunity that, you know, we never had that when 100 years ago, I studied agronomy. This is the best opportunity for the young ever, because all the technology available, the huge demand to transform food systems, whatever that means, and get the youth into finance. I'm not talking about the geeks who know a lot about finance. I'm talking about, you know, this is a great opportunity to do digital extension. The youth can do that easily the way they manage their phones. So there is a lot of youth, not only in Latin America. I think there's a big possibility as a magnet for these 4 centers together to attract much more than the traditional youth. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think maybe I'm the youngest on the panel. So
You are.
I can bring another perspective, and I completely agree with you, Ruben. Thank you. One of the things that I'm more passionate about, and is really related to digital, is, for example, when we can put farming and agriculture as solution to those biggest world's problems like climate. We do have initiatives where we reward farmers for sustainable practices, where we put agriculture as part of the solution, as that we promote farmers to with sustainable farming practice. So using data to do all of that, to measure, and then to bring the value that the farmers need, and then improve their livelihood. So it's really, we are in exciting moments, and I represent Bayer, and I am always very excited that we join those type of projects. And I share your points, Ruben, very, very very much actually. And as a Brazilian and a Latin America, I really want us to focus more in this region. There are many places that we work, of course, as a global company, but this is a key region when we think about food security, not only to the region, but to the world. So this is, and the environment. So completely with you here, and maybe back to you, because there was a question around how these ideas and the CG programs plan to integrate with existing platforms in the region, like Fontagro, Releaser, Process, and other networks that have decades of practice in bringing together the multi-stakeholders factors. So
that's a big one, but I want to leave time for Marco. So briefly, what I can say is that Latin America and the Caribbean has been not only the beginning of the CGIAR, I should be at the frontier of the CGIAR, but it has also been a laboratory of things that have not worked and those who have worked. Fontagro is an example of those who are very excitement and they have worked fantastically. There are many more, so we can connect the dots. And the idea is not to do something in addition of all the layers of good institutional things that we have done. You know, sometimes people say, well, the cemetery is full of great ideas that never had an impact. Well, Latin America, it has a lot of vibrant initiatives that we can connect. Fontagro is one, and there are many regional platforms. And there are commodity regional networks. I'm not talking only about the maize or the beans or the potatoes. I'm talking about a lot of other things that the CGIAR can do, and not only in the so-called CGIAR crops. We should be working in many other things. We should be working in vegetables, cacao, you name it, if you really want to bring those youth and so on. So I think there are a lot of initiatives. When we talk about national systems, where those initiatives were mainly promoted and created, we are talking not only of the National Research Institute, INIAS, which are a key part of it, but we are talking about the rest, the civil society, the producer federations, the people who work in Masagro, all of those. Anyway, so I think there are a lot of initiatives where we are, I think, trying to do, we are not going to monopolize or coordinate. We are not coordinators. We are not coordinators. These 4 centers are here to help and to add value, hopefully to increase investment. So we are going to connect all of those dots as much as we can, of course, with those regional platforms. I think there are too many fragmented initiatives that if we can connect and put our flags down and work together, this is the time to really have a huge impact. So I am, as usual, quite positive that in a couple of years we can develop this facility and put together all these great things. We cannot transform food system with $100,000 projects. I'm sorry, bad news, we can't. So we need to really interact a lot with many people in a very transnational way. Thank you.
I just
Actually,
want
if I
to
could
add
just, sorry. I'll be very quick, sorry. Pass you the word, Rob. No, I just wanted to pick up on something Ruben said, which is, you know, I think that's why the 4 of us are here together, because this panel was not created by saying, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if the 4 centers got together and did a panel? We've been working together for months on a combined platform as part of the one CG. And so I just want to emphasize that what I said earlier about how we're building off of each other's work, not only have we been working together for months in this format, actually all of us on this panel have known each other and worked together prior to being in these positions for years. And so we have a very close-knit relationship which goes beyond the professional. It's our passion for this work, but it's just, I just want to emphasize that this is not a, let's have a bunch of centers come together. This really is based on a deep values and work that we're coming at it from our distinct angles to make a better, to create better opportunities for the region. And let me just end with, I want to quote Roger Thoreau. Many of you know the author. He focuses a lot on malnutrition. But I just want to quote him because I think what he says is so critical, and a lot of people forget this. Working in Latin America goes well beyond Latin America. So let me just quote him. He says, I think it's a profound argument that Latin America, because of its growing importance in food production and great biodiversity, needs to be at the center of all discussions globally on future food systems. Without Latin America, there's no hope of moving the needle on global malnutrition, poverty, and food insecurity. Neglecting Latin America undermines all other efforts. Thank you.
Gina, I think that's fantastic that you just quoted that. And I think I just wanted to mention the existing platforms not only need to be connected, but I would also invite to be way more ambitious. From Latin America to the rest of the world, there is a lot to offer. So let us be generous and actually have that ambition. And I think with that ambition, automatically, we will come together and we will integrate all those platforms. Because, I mean, also for CIMMYT, as proud member of the One CGIAR, I'm sure Marco in a couple of minutes we'll talk about that. We're very conscious that the next generations will hold us accountable. I mean, as we are looking at history, the next generation will look at the decisions we are taking here today. This is a critical moment, and we need to go to this green evolution, but it's today's decision, if we use agriculture for peace and prosperity or not, that will make a difference. And it will be very clear, talking about data and monitoring and evaluation. It's very simple. If in 2 years' time, there is a crisis on television, we did not do our job. The next generations will not say thank you for having a nice seminar, or thank you for having a new paper, or thank you for having the perfect governance. They will hold us accountable for having taken this opportunity to really transform. And also everybody who's listening, I think we need to be absolutely conscious about this, to have a call to use agriculture for transformation and do it real and make the difference, because time is short.
Thank you, Bram. Jesus, 10 seconds, we need to give the floor to
my colleague said everything, so I don't need to add as very inspiring words from them. We have been working together just to say that our complementary forces, we are working together just to not to add more, let's say, chaos to the chaos. So we would like to just be something which can agglutinate, can be a glue for everybody, but also something important, not only for the region, as you said, that's critical. I mean, we are a lab for the world. They can learn from us. We are thinking more also of South-South cooperation. That's important. What can we learn from Africa, from Asia, from Europe? But what can we bring to them? What is our, our teachings to them, our learnings to them? Over.
Thank you, Jesus, and thank you, everyone. Before I give the floor to Marco for the closing remarks, let me thank everybody that joined today, and how proud I am to be part of this this amazing conversation. As you said, my mom always told me to be a responsible citizen, to be responsible to your planet and to your people. So I feel with my position in Bayer and being able to have those dialogues with you, I am living what my mom told me to do, and doing moving the impact that we need to do. Is our collective responsibility to do this. And I'm happy that we had this chance, and I hope everybody got inspired to join the conversation and to join the projects and accelerate change. So now with no delay, Marco, please, we want to hear your insightful remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, Natasha, I cannot know how insightful it is. It cannot be better than what we have heard from the panelists and from you. And I think that the first advice and take-home message that I would personally take away from this discussion, and would propose that the participants want to consider taking away, is the advice that you have just quoted from your mom. Because there is something there in terms of the moral sense of responsibility that we all have. We are privileged in our various positions and vantage points in the world. For example, in the research community in CGIAR, and also I look at some of the participants who are in similar positions, that we are able to reflect on these earth-shakingly important dimensions that we are discussing here, and at the margin at least, and hopefully beyond the margin, have an impact by through new approaches to partnerships, for example. And this is where the substance of the contributions by the panelists comes in. Data-driven, integrated, moving beyond fragmentation, which has been something that in CGIAR has evolved over times in ways, in part because of the way we are funded, in ways that we are now correcting under One CGIAR. The whole set of contributions about partnerships, about innovation, about new financial requirements and so on are something that I wholeheartedly endorse, and I could not have said it better. I want to bring greetings to all of us participants and panelists from the CGIAR System Board, and I know that they would have been equally as inspired as I am by what we are hearing. I think, Natasha, Latin American agriculture is legendary in important aspects or respects. And this is in part so because of the combined effects over time of the CGIAR centers located in Latin America. Two key areas of service to the world that come from Latin America have to do with the fact that Latin America is the largest major food exporting region to the world. And it is also a very important producer of environmental and ecosystem services that shape global weather patterns, for example, and mitigate climate. And that is because of the vast forests that we have in the region and the savanna regions and so on. The first of these services, having to do with production and exports, of course, helps stabilize global supplies and therefore prices. And it says a lot about the technological prowess, the productivity prowess of a significant portion, not all, but a significant portion of Latin American agriculture. The second of these services, which has more to do with the environmental dimension as mentioned, is absolutely there, but it requires a caveat and new action going forward. And I think this has been mentioned repeatedly by our excellent panelists. Namely, the agricultural successes of the past have come at a high cost, an excessively high cost we now learn to recognize and understand in terms of natural resources and in particular biodiversity. And it is in this respect that I salute, for example, in particular, the work of, well, basically of all CG centers and all of the CG centers here represented, and in particular of the Alliance of CIAT and Biodiversity, which essentially has been created as an alliance of what used to be two centers that worked independently of each other, motivated by the need for by the recognition that we need to do something else in terms of how we are organized in order to increase the scope of our impact, right? And this is again where the notion of fragmentation comes in, and the creation of the alliance is an answer to that. It is about creating and resourcing ourselves for critical mass in terms of impact. And so I think that this is probably the most important challenge going forward when it comes to Latin American agriculture. It needs to become environmentally sustainable in terms of the agri-food systems, while at the same time still, and even better than in the past, assuring a number of things, namely first, food and nutrition security. Second, the hoped for economic contributions of agriculture and agri-food systems to growth, jobs, poverty reduction, and lastly, enhance the ecosystem services for the world. I want to acknowledge the profound Latin America specific work and the broader work with more global ramifications of the four centers represented on this panel and therefore located in Latin America: CIP, CIAT, Biodiversity, the Alliance, and CIMMYT. Their work has been over the years meritorious for what it teaches us about the region and the effects that it has objectively unleashed on Latin America in terms of developmental effects overall linked to agriculture. But their work is also meritorious for the global implications that it has in both directions because of choices that it influenced that were made in the region and choices that it has influenced that were made outside in geographies dominated by systemically important parts of the world outside that then have an effect on Latin America. CGIAR is an organization with a global remit and as such must give adequate attention to Latin America. And the ideas of how to do this have been showcased in this panel. Latin American agricultural successes relative to other world regions can have the effect of diverting attention from it. And to a degree, this is happening, and some of you have mentioned this. And this discussion and that's one of the reasons why this is an important panel, has shown that diverting attention, for example, inside of CGIAR from Latin American agriculture is ill-advised. In fact, we cannot let it happen, and I think that is a message that I want to leave you with. Basically, I think Latin American agricultural and food systems need and deserve policy attention, investment, and innovation. And the choices made in Latin America in this regard will be important for Latin America itself, but also for the rest of the world. There are systemic implications of what Latin America does, because Latin America is systemically very important. Maybe I'll leave it at this. And I don't know if we have more time for discussion. Natasha, I'll leave that to you, but in any case, I'll turn it back to you. Again, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. The discussion has been fascinating, and I've learned a lot from it.
Thank you so much. What a great way to end it. Unfortunately, we could talk for 5 hours. I would love to. We need to do much more of this, but our time is up. I hope everybody that joined really learned as much as I did. Here we have all the centers, all of this power to continues to be unlocked. We are in the year of the food system transformation. Is our collective responsibility, and I invite everyone to join the projects and really, really, really accelerate the transformation that we need for this world, particularly in my region, which is systemic relevant, as Marco just shared with us on the closing remarks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and let's continue connected. And the questions that you drop it on, if we have not answered those, they will be sent to you in writing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, for making it happen. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
The recording will be available at the link in the chat, so we will also let you know when it's ready there.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Natasha. Ciao, ciao.
Hasta luego.
Ciao, ciao.